Okay, so officially, hello everybody, and welcome to How to Attract the Right Person Masterclass. So I can't wait to get in to this with you today and just basically talk about how to attract the right person, what are the things that are blocking you and getting in your way, and then basically what to do about it so we can get out of your way. The blocks can get out of your way, right? So first of all, if I haven't met you before, and I don't think I have, I don't recognise any names here, and there's certainly no faces, I can't tell, but I'm Top Hair. I always say that my name sounds like the top that you wear and the air that you breathe, Top Hair. And I am a relationship and dating coach, mentor, and guide. So I love to coach and help people figure things out, but I also love to mentor because I've been there and done that. And I also love to guide you as well on your journey to finding your ideal person. So I do all sorts in terms of like so many different services and offers, one-to-ones, groups, memberships. I do definitely love my one-to-one stuff. I really like to connect with people on a one-on-one basis. But I also really love doing these things as well, these workshops and these masterclass. So I try and do them as often as I can to connect with as many of you as I can and help you, even just like en masse like this. So have nobody's even put anything in the chat, guys. Come on, share with me. Like, where are you from? Okay, thank you, Heidi. So, knowledge about people in modern times, especially 30 and up. You got married very young, and people are very confusing nowadays. I hear that happens a lot. And you're from London. Ah, me too. Welcome, my fellow Londoner. So, yeah, well, it was cold today. Poland, great. Thank you, Daria. You're from Poland. Lovely to connect with you. Netherlands, lovely, Ling, you're from the Netherlands. Awesome. And Barcelona, I've got someone from Barcelona here. Brilliant. Love it. Someone else from London, fabulous. Not that, everybody else isn't, but you're in my neck of the woods. So today we're going to be talking about how to attract the right person. Please let me know if there's any problem with the picture. So obviously I want to dive in and just talk about why you might be here tonight, because I know we've got one response, but I would imagine Lester, also better than not, lovely Holger, that you've obviously been trying to date, to find your person. Maybe you're someone who's done a bit of reflection as well. Maybe you've done some healing, maybe you've done some growth, but at the end of the day, your love life is still feeling like it's quite confusing, that it's a bit slow, maybe it's repetitive, maybe you're just kind of getting a little bit frustrated right now. Whatever's going on, something just hasn't clicked for you. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, I imagine you're probably putting yourself out there, right? You're dating and you're trying, or maybe you're coming out of a relationship or a marriage, and you're just thinking, right, I want to know how to get this right next time. Okay, so maybe that's you, or you might be here because you're just so fed up with meeting people who just aren't available, like emotionally available, even like actually physically available to you. Maybe you're just frustrated because things just don't turn out the way that you hope. Maybe you're thinking, okay, is there something that I'm missing? Because it seems like everybody else seems to get it. Everyone else seems to figure it out. Everyone else seems to be dating and meeting people, and I'm just not. And you know what? That's fine. If any of this is you, like, you're definitely not alone. It happens to so many singles, definitely happened to me. I always tell my story that it took me 17 years post my divorce before I actually met my partner, who I've been with for 4.5 years now. But it took 17 years of literally falling in and out of relationships, trying to figure it out, trying to what is the missing piece? What is it that I'm not getting right, that that I'm doing wrong? And eventually I did find my person, and I found him online, by the way. Right? I did a lot of online dating, actually, on and off over a decade. So I do advocate that as well a lot, because I have met nice people. I did connect with them, but they just were not compatible for me. So, it is definitely possible. So I just wanted to share that because I wanted you to know that, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with yourself, but it's just more about, what do you actually need to shift? Maybe what is the thing that maybe I need to tweak? What is the thing that maybe I need to change just in order to make this happen? Because often if you find that, you're doing all the things, you're putting yourself out there, you're doing all of this, but you keep finding yourself in the same situation over and over and over again, it means that something has to change, because, there's just no point doing the same thing over and over again and then expecting a different result, right? That was Einstein's infamous quote, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Somebody has just joined the waiting room. So I'm just going to admit them. So that's kind of, that's what we're about today. It's what we're here for today, is just trying to find out what is that kind of thing that I do need to change, that I do need to shift, so that I can get the result that I actually want. And I'm going to be talking about 3 key things that are blocking you and what to do instead. So one of these things might be it for you, might be like, oh, this is the missing piece of the puzzle. Oh my goodness. Or it might be, you got a couple of these things. Okay, I need to do 2 of these. Or it might be, whoa, all of these things are things that I need to shift right now, right? But that's great. As I always say, awareness is key, right? There's never any judgment. There's no shaming. It just is what it is. And as soon as you know what's going on, as soon as you've got the clarity about what it is, brilliant. Like, that's really where you want to get to. Is, I always say, awareness is key. So just keep your mind open. Definitely no judgment. I'm just going to quickly read Nicole. She's been divorced 5 years after a long marriage. Haven't dipped your toe in the dating pool, wary of getting hurt again. I totally hear that. None of us want that. None of us want to get hurt. So there is a little bit of nervousness, but what I'm going to share with you will hopefully help you to have a bit more like confidence about putting yourself out there. And hi, Janika, thank you for joining us. And that's what these points are to do. So let's dive in, because I've been waffling. Number 1, the thing that stands in our way is when we're not clear on what we want. So this is where, this is not about being picky, right? This is just having real clarity, because a lot of people feel like when they go into relationships that if they're going to be open-minded, this is the best way to be. Let me be open-minded. Let me see who there is and see what's out there and give people the chance and stuff like that. But oftentimes it's not about being open-minded. It's just not being defined. You're kind of undefined, which means you haven't really thought through what is the kind of relationship that you actually want. How do you want to feel in it? Now, what are the values and the lifestyle that need to align between you and this other person? And if you're not clear on those things, then what tends to happen is that you end up just kind of accepting anyone who just shows a bit of interest. Somebody who is nice enough, I get on well with, they're good company, we have a laugh, and those things, there's nothing wrong with those things, obviously, but I always feel like they're sort of like baseline in a way. They're like sort of bare minimum. That's what we want. We want people that we get on with and that we have a laugh with and who's nice and stuff like that. But, not just being like nice enough. So what happens is then you end up giving people a chance because of that. And the bar is low. I always say the bar is low then when you're doing this. And we don't want the bar to be so low. We want to not, and I'm not talking about having high expectations of people, unrealistic expectations of people, but we generally want to, just have a standard of what alignment means for us. Right, for us particularly specifically, right? What is it that you want for you? Because otherwise you end up dating someone that you get on with, but it feels a little bit off. Have you ever done that where you've yeah, we get on well, but something's not quite right? There's this little whisper somewhere that's telling you that. You just say, oh, just see how it goes, instead of listening to your intuition. A lot of us do that. I'll just see how it goes. We'll just see, we'll just let it flow, etc. And that's not obviously because you're just desperate, it's because you just haven't given yourself like a clear filter in how to kind of let people flow through, those matches, those people that you meet. You want to filter it out. I always say it's almost like separating the wheat from the chaff. And I say that a lot about online dating, because it's kind of what you're doing, right? You're just separating people that are not right for you for those small portion of people that could potentially be, based on some of the things. But if you're not clear about it, then any connection that you make with someone can feel like potential, which is one of the ways in which you can also get a little bit drained. But then this is also how you end up just saying yes to people that aren't quite right. So if you don't have clarity, you can end up wasting time on connections that aren't matched. You get emotionally invested in people before you even figure out whether or not you're aligned. You confuse that feeling of something that's come. One of the things I definitely did with that. Oh, this feels nice, this feels easy, this feels comfortable. But we weren't compatible. We just got on well. We just had some similar interests in like music and movies and stuff like that, you know. But when you have clarity, then you've got direction. You've got kind of like that North Star. You know where you're going, you know what you're looking for, you know how you want to feel, because these are some really key things in a relationship. And the thing is, the right person can't find you if you're not actually clear on who it is that you're looking for. You know, that right person could just be there. But if you're not even sure if that's the person you want and you're just giving all these different people a chance, that person's standing there waiting for you, but you're not even sure if they're the right one for you, you know? But if you're more clear, you're like, oh, yeah, that person's much more aligned with me. And that's what you need to have. I think, Janika, you asked a question. Yeah, I'm going to answer questions all at the end. Okay, happily. I will happily. Just want to get through it because I often run over because I'm always answering people's questions. So what do you do instead, right? What do you do instead if you are, you know, needing to be more clear? How do you do this? So it's not like about writing like a rigid checklist. Okay, it's about really getting honest about, you know, what actually matters to you. Like now, what matters to you in your life? What do you desire in terms of your kind of vision for your future, you know, for the life that you want to live, how you want to sort of share things with your partner. You know, it's defining your non-negotiables, the things that you know absolutely, if I don't have this, then I know this relationship will just not work. It just won't be fulfilling for me. You know, or if I do have this, I know eventually this is just going to blow up in my face. So it's kind of like, why pass go if you already know that this isn't going to work? So you need to know what your non-negotiables are. You need to understand, okay, what is fulfilling for me? What do I know is going to make me really happy? And I always want to be clear, because I always say to people, it's not so much about people's personality traits and their character and stuff like that, because you could have somebody who's funny, you know, who's kind and who's tall and who's attractive, you know, all these things, but those aren't the things that are going to necessarily take you far. Of course, the kindness, because you want to be treated well, but what about what are the values? Where's the alignment with your values and your lifestyle and stuff? You know, what's aligned for you? So it's more about what you value and what values you'd love to share with people. I always say that's where you then look at the alignment, because that's a much better foundation. It's because you know, if somebody values kindness, it's a really big thing, and it means that you know that they're going to always treat you a certain way or treat other people a certain way, and you want to be with somebody who treats other people a certain way, maybe because you've got plans to you know, be I want to say philanthropist, or you know, doing projects in the community is very important. So is that kind of a value that it's really important for you that you share with somebody else, or even that community focus, you know, stuff that you want to do, or you want to have this digital nomad lifestyle, or, you know, you want to travel all over the place because you've got your massive bucket list and you want your partner to go with you. You know, how important is that to you? How much do you value that kind of stuff? You know, and it's just that when things get tough as well, oftentimes when we're aligned on a lot of things, it kind of helps the relationship to keep moving forward even more, as well as obviously people's willingness to put in the work and stuff like that. So being clear, it doesn't make you like too picky. It just means it makes you more available for the right match instead of everything and everybody, right? It just helps you keep a bit more, you know, of a narrow focus. So I hope that really makes sense. So I'd love for you to put in the chat, right? I want to be interactive. I want to understand a little bit about, you know, what you're getting from this. So I want you to vote or type in the chat. A, I know exactly what I want. That's, you know, your non-negotiables, you know, your values that you want to share with somebody. Maybe B, I have an idea, but maybe it's a little bit fuzzy. Or C, I actually realize that I've been much more open than intentional. And remember, there's no judgment. It's just information. It's just about being aware. So I'd love for you to share that. A, you know what you want. B, you've got an idea, but it's a bit fuzzy. Or C, you realize that you've been a bit more open than intentional. So please drop that for me in the chat so I can see where everybody's at. If this has landed A, okay, awesome. Let's see, got A. Okay, interesting, Heidi. Oh, don't laugh at yourself. No judgment, Heidi. You're also a narc, Magna. Interesting. We have to laugh. Yes, just not at yourself, because you're not doing anything wrong. It's just something to figure out why, why this is happening, right? Anyone else who wants to share? Hey, I've got a couple of A's here, so that's really good to hear. So you're intentional, Heidi, but somehow you still seem to attract a certain type of person that just, disappears on you. Okay. Anyone else want to drop their letters? Let's share with me what it is that you're thinking and feeling. I'd really love to hear. All right. In the meantime, I'm going to move on. And hopefully you guys will feel more comfortable to share in a little bit. The second thing that tends to block you is you don't know how you have dating blocks, but you actually don't know what they are, and then you don't know what to do with them. Right? Now, even if you do know what you want, right, we're seeing here that there are blocks. So there can be sort of some invisible blocks, often within ourselves, that actually do tend to run the show. And this is where we talk a lot about our subconscious programming, things that are going on under the bonnet, under the surface, that we don't even realize. Maybe those little voices, all those things that actually drive the way that we behave. And it might be little voices that sound like, oh, I'm just too much for people. I think I'm just too much. I've got too much of a personality, or I talk too much, I this too much, or that too much, whatever it is. I'm too sensitive. I'm too mushy. I'm too quirky. I don't know if anyone's going to actually want to be with me or like me, or I'm not enough. That I need to be more. I need to be more this. I need to be prettier, funnier, have more money, be more ambitious. If I'm not these things, then no one's going to want me. Or you have this belief that love just doesn't work out for me. No matter how much I've tried, it's just not worked. I've been with that person, or I date that person, I was with that person, and it just doesn't work. So you've got these thoughts, or people always leave. Maybe you've had an experience in your life where you've just keep losing people from your life. So you have that belief in your mind, or, I should just be grateful that anyone wants me, to be fair. Like, I'll take anyone. As like, at least they've chosen me, And when you have those kind of beliefs that are running the show, they affect who you do feel attracted to. They affect what behavior you end up tolerating from people. They affect how quickly you settle into the relationship, or settle, for less, how you respond when somebody shows you even the slightest bit of interest. Because ultimately, deep down, you just want to be chosen. When you have those kind of beliefs that drive you, you just want to be chosen. 1 second while I just let Maria in. And you end up saying yes way too quickly, because you just say, oh my God, somebody likes me. Great. Or you ignore the doubts that you have that are, inside, whispering to you like, oh, I'm not sure if this is actually the right person. And you're just like, oh, it's fine. I'm sure this is going to work out, because that person has chosen you. Welcome, Maria. You stay longer than you should in a relationship, not because you don't know better, but all because it just feels so much nicer to be chosen. It feels safer than being on your own, because all of those things that you are thinking, they're all kind of like fear-based as well. If somebody says yes to you, then it's like, oh great, that must mean that I'm not too much, regardless of whether they're actually right for you. It doesn't matter. You just kind of want somebody because you doubt yourself so much. The minute somebody shows you the slightest bit of interest, you jump on it. And when you do that, then you end up not just sort of, you do attract the wrong people, but you also kind of, you're out of alignment with yourself and what you actually want. And like I was saying, you date from fear. You date from this fear-based, worry of somebody not wanting you. So if you let this relationship go, who else is going to say yes to you? Nobody's likely to say yes to you. There's not going to be anyone better who's going to come along. You end up believing that, so then you hold on to something that doesn't even make you happy, but at least you've got somebody, right? Or you're dating from lack, because you just believe that there's not enough people out there for you, so you better just take whoever's available. Or you're dating from wounds, you're dating from fear of rejection and fear of abandonment, rather than like feeling worthy, feeling like you're enough the way that you are. When we date from the fears of that we're just not enough, somebody's going to reject us, someone's going to abandon us again, we just jump on the bandwagon of whoever's there. And that way as well, when you do actually maybe connect to somebody who might be right for you, that right person actually doesn't feel that familiar to you, or they feel a little bit uncomfortable because that person is aligned with you. You don't need any reassurance from them. They're not kind of there to validate you. They're there to sort of be your equal, but that doesn't feel right because you're so used to bending over backwards, trying to prove yourself, trying to prove that you're enough, trying to prove that you're loved, or shrinking to fit yourself into something, with that feeling of not enoughness. Then you just try to maneuver yourself just so that somebody will keep you and keep saying yes to you. When somebody doesn't need any of that from you, that doesn't feel right. And that can be the feeling that actually feels off as well. And also, you don't tend to see that person. I find that, it's harder to see the right person because your brain is constantly trying to find evidence to back up the beliefs that you have. If you don't feel like you're enough, if you don't feel like you're too much, then all you're going to be doing is getting validation from that person who has chosen you, especially when people don't end up treating you well. But you then kind of like you've sort of already decided, oh, they're all right, they're with me anyway. Nobody else is going to want me. I'm not enough. And I'll get validation. Often I find it when people are in sort of things like situationships, when they do that push and pull dance. I was in one for 5 years, so I speak from true experience. I often find that the person on the other end is the one also who's seeking that validation. Because every time, I pulled away, when you pull away and then they're like, oh my God, they've gone. Oh, I need to kind of get them back. I need them to say yes to me again. So I'll go after them and I'll say all the right things and I'll make sure that, they're kind of hooked again. And then I feel sort of validated. Yeah, 5 years, girl, 5 years. But that's kind of where my whole turning point was. That's where everything changed for me because I realized where I was going wrong completely from there. So it happened. But, that's partly why I'm here today doing this, because it taught me so much. But they get their sort of validation. So that's another wounded person over there, right? That other person's wounded because they need that from you too. They need you to keep saying yes to them as well. So you're just caught up in this sort of almost trauma bond, really. So what you need to do realistically is the inner work bit, which I feel like sometimes people just don't want to do it because it feels hard. Oh my God, I have to work on myself. I have to do this. Or do I have to change? It's so hard. I'm so used to being like this. This feels comfortable for me. We would love to be stuck in our comfort zone. Nobody wants to stretch out of their comfort zone, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to kind of like be that deep, right? First part is when you recognize the pattern that's happening for you without judging yourself and just being like, right, okay, this is the pattern that I'm stuck in, right? This is why this is happening to me, right? I get it. And then you understand where those beliefs come from in the first place. I often find that it's so good to know the why behind that, because then that's how you can pattern interrupt. So if something happens again, you're like, oh, no. It's only because that happened to me, maybe as I was growing up, because my parents said this, or my teacher at school said that, or I, got bullied and it's made me not feel like I was good enough, or whatever it is, or I was stuck in this long relationship where the person was quite toxic and they put me down and they made me lose my confidence. So all of those things, they happened, but they don't mean that you're not enough. Do you know what I mean? They don't mean that you're going to be left, you're going to be abandoned. Those circumstances and situations that happen, but they are not the truth. They're not the narrative. So when you understand that, it's like, oh no, that happened because of that. That doesn't mean that I'm not enough. So you can at least like give it the context as well. And that really helps you too. So understanding where your beliefs are coming from and just being able to reframe. I would say reframing is so important to be able to say, okay, no, that's not true. This is true. No, that's not the thought I need to have. This is the thought I need to have, right? That's not the action I need to take. This is the one I need to take. Okay, so it's giving you your like a clear plan of action going forward, and it just helps you when you're doing this work. You have to learn to stay grounded as well in your situation, and learn to trust yourself as well when you date. You've got to build up that self-trust as well. So when you start clearing all of these dating blocks, all these patterns, then you stop chasing validation. You don't date for validation. And again, this is subconscious. You don't necessarily know that you are dating for validation, right? You don't know this, but that's what's going on underneath the surface. You just want to be chosen. You just want something that feels familiar, which is often that feeling of having to bend yourself, like twist yourself all over the place to meet to, what's the word, sorry, bending over backwards to people please and all those things, to keep that person, to keep reinforcing that belief that you have about yourself. But when you don't need that, because you feel good about yourself already, you know that it was just circumstance, then you start to feel a bit more confident in yourself, confident in your choices. You actually have the ability to then also say no, that I don't want this, or I don't need this, this isn't for me, I don't need to just accept this, I don't need to just settle for this, because I deserve more. And that there are people out there who are going to be aligned with me, and we're going to have a healthy relationship together. So I hope that makes sense. So I would like to ask you, A, B, or C. A, do you feel quite secure when you're dating? Or B, do you know that you kind of have patterns, but you're kind of not sure what they are? Like maybe stuff is, keeps on happening, but you're not actually sure what's underneath it. Or C, that you can see how, wanting to be chosen has actually influenced the way that you date. I'd love for you to share. A, you feel cool, brilliant. B, you have patterns, but you're not sure. C, you can see how wanting to be chosen has influenced your dating. Thanks, Janika. So obviously, if you're B and C, it's fine. You're just becoming aware. Brilliant. Best step is when you do A. So Maria says she feels pretty secure when she's dating. You're good. You don't have any anything that you think's getting in the way. No patterns that are holding you back. So you're cool. To Jean, thank you. You said B. You've got some patterns. Ling says B before, but A now. Brilliant. So you've been doing some of that work on yourself, that you've been cutting that out and working on your dating blocks. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. So the third thing is not having an intentional dating strategy. So that's like not actually being really clear on, like just a whole load of process, the whole approach to dating. So oftentimes we just go into dating thinking, I want a relationship. I just want a relationship. That's it. So you'll focus so much on that end goal, but not on that actual kind of process of kind of getting there, because you're not being intentional. You're just like, I just want someone, right? This is cool. And what happens when you're doing that is you end up feeling quite drained. If you ever feel that feeling when you've been dating, that you feel drained, you're feeling emotionally exhausted, this is just a lot, this is just too much, right? And you find yourself reacting to situations, reacting to people, reacting to, reactions, rather than just cruising, right? Cruising in your dating journey, enjoying it, enjoying the process, learning from it, still trusting that everything's going to come and work out. That's what happens when we're not really intentional. So you might just kind of go on dates with anyone who asks. Again, it kind of goes back a little bit to the not having the clarity, staying in situationships like mum, hoping that they're just going to change, or just you're not very good at screening people in and out. Like especially when you just meet them, you're not kind of like thinking about, okay, I do need to really be a bit more radical and screen you to make sure that you've got my main non-negotiables at the very least before we even progress, rather than jumping into something because you're so excited and maybe the chemistry is popping off, etc., and you're just having a good time, you're enjoying it, but you're actually not paying enough attention to whether or not somebody's aligned. And maybe you're not even aware as well of things to look out for, like red flags. What are they? Or the green flags? What are the things that actually suggest that you are on the right track? Because we don't pay attention enough, I think, to green flags, especially if we've come from a situation where we're stuck in a certain way of being and patterns, and then we're with somebody that feels unfamiliar, but actually they are a real green flag. So it's good to know what those are too, or you get knocked back seriously when someone's ghosted you or they've rejected you. It affects you quite deeply because you haven't kind of built out the resilience or understand that that's something you just need to do, because this is definitely the modern dating world. And eventually what happens, you just end up settling, not because you're in the right place or with the right person, but just you're tired of dating. And, where you said 5 years of the situationship, that's how I got into that, because I was exhausted from the dating. I was just like, and I was online and people were just not really putting in the effort, they weren't pursuing. And I was just tired. I was just like, oh, this is so long. This guy's interested, is into me. Okay, cool. Let's just see how that goes. And he's really making the effort, he's bare love bombing me. I didn't realize that at the time, then I got hooked. And then I started giving him allowances and making excuses, because I just thought, what, I just literally can't bother to go and date anymore. So I'll just give him that time that he says he needs to be in the right headspace, because I'm not going to bother with anyone else. Really wasn't the right energy. I mean, there were other factors that definitely affected that, situationship, you know, a lot of it was my self-worth as well. I was not behaving like a woman of high value at all. You know, but that's what can happen sometimes. You just get tired and you kind of then just settle. You settle for less than what you actually really want, because it's better than being back out there, you know, trying to figure all of this stuff out. And what this does is, like, if you don't have a strategy, then you end up being at the mercy of other people's availability, other people's desires, other people's wants as well, all the mixed signals. And I was saying this to somebody, I think it was at the mix the other day. It's like, if we have to do, I don't know if you've ever done this pros and cons list about whether we should stay with somebody. I've done it. I'm not ashamed. I can tell you about my dating messes, you know, because you're not sure about somebody. And it's like, and you're like, oh, but all these things are working and all these things aren't working. If you have to even do one, then it probably tells you already that this person isn't it for you, because you obviously feel like something's not right, you know. So that's not helpful. And you just don't know where you sort of stand with somebody as well. And you kind of go along based on whether they are into you or not into you, you know, rather than you sort of being very clear about, this isn't for me. You know, you are at the mercy of people's inconsistent behavior as well. And you're not actually really sure about whether this inconsistent behavior is okay. Is it acceptable? Does it make sense? Is it all right because they're just a human? Or actually, no, this is just not it, you know. And you're just reacting all the time to things that are happening around you, but you're not leading your dating life. You're not in charge of it. You're not like being intentional and having that intentional strategy. So when you're intentional, then you know who you're looking for. You know what the relationship feels like. You know, you'll be able to pinpoint it when you see it, when you experience it, when you have it. You know where you're likely to even find people who are aligned with you. That's right. There are people around in certain places. In fact, I was just doing that for a couple of people today. I was done a few, where are they hiding? So I was looking for their aligned places and aligned events for them based on what they wanted, their values and their you know, lifestyle, etc. You know, that's part of being intentional, because you'll actually be like, oh, where could I actually go to kind of be around those people who got potential matches with me because they value the same kind of thing. Or even online dating, knowing kind of which apps are going to work best for you based on what you want, how you do things, or know how to use them, how to make them work for you, and also know how to take certain things personally, how to handle and navigate online dating. You know, it's like being able to screen people early, and obviously kindly, respectfully, and being able to let people go if they're not right for you. You know, not being worried about letting somebody down, or if you've got the great chemistry but the compatibility is there, or you've got the compatibility but the chemistry is not there. You know what decisions to make. You already know ahead of time, this is what I'm going to do, this is not how I'm going to handle it. And it's essentially as well being emotionally prepared for the setbacks, you know, so that if stuff is going to happen, stuff was always going to happen, right? But you're ready for it. You know how to deal with it. This is what I'm going to do if I get ghosted. This is what I'm going to do if someone says they're not into me. It doesn't mean that we're not going to feel the sting of some things, but you know that you don't want to be taking this personally, or that, you know, they're just not the right person. They've deselected themselves. This is the point where you don't go, you know, oh, that person got away, that's the one that got away. They didn't get away, because if they were right for you, they wouldn't have gone anywhere. Do you know what I mean? The right person doesn't get away if they're gone, because it takes two of you to build a relationship. Yeah, if they're not feeling the same thing for you, it can't be right. You know, so it's more about really learning how to protect your energy and learning how to sort of stay aligned with your North Star as well. So dating works best when you're actually prepared. That's why it's great to have an intentional dating strategy. And it helps you to just stay grounded, stay calm. It gives you confidence in yourself, confidence in how to handle situations, confidence about where to find people. You know that you're just going to learn from things if they don't work out. But rather than you just kind of like just dating, as I call it, dating with your in the dark. I always say it's better to date with your eyes wide open than in the dark, right? Because I'm just looking for a relationship, you know, and that's how you end up getting burnt out. That's how you end up getting exhausted. You give too many people opportunities, all the wrong people the opportunities, and they're not really the right people for you. So hopefully that has made sense to you about having an intentional dating strategy. So this last one, I'd love to hear, do you feel like you date very intentionally, right? So I want you to put an A in the chat if you feel like, yeah, I'm actually quite an intentional dater. Or B, I try to, but I kind of like lose momentum after a while. I forget about screening people in and I just kind of end up going with the flow, or I just don't have my confidence, or I lose the confidence. And C, I mostly react to what comes my way. Somebody shows up, somebody likes me, I just go with that. I deal with that. I'm not actually intentional. So obviously there's no right or wrong. This just goes to show where, you know, you need sort of more help with this. So A, you date very intentionally. B, you try to, but you kind of lose momentum. And C, you just kind of react to things that come your way. A, okay, you're quite intentional. C, you react. I think I say C, yeah, to Ria. Alpha says C as well. Okay, you're quite reactive. Awesome. So it's good that you're having this bit of awareness. So if you were to think about these three areas that you feel that we've talked about. So number one is being clear on what you're looking for. Number two is your dating blocks and knowing what your patterns are. And number three is being more of an intentional dater. Where do you feel, 1, 2, or 3, is the area that you think you're going to need to go and do most of the work on for yourself in order to change the scenario that you're in at the moment? Sorry about my squeaky noise. So 1, 2, or 3, what area do you feel like is the one that you need to go and start sort of tweaking? Getting clear on what you want, number one. Knowing what your dating blocks and patterns are and dealing with those. And number 3, okay, Nicole says I need to work on all 3, but you're going to start with number 1. It's getting clear on what you want. Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's like your North Star, at least, you know, what to keep looking for. And when you get to number 3, then you know how to screen based on what you've, number 1, Jean says number 1 as well, and number 3 as well. All 3 of them. Okay. Anyone else? Number 2. Okay, so understanding your dating patterns. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Janika. 2, Daria says as well, your dating patterns. No idea. Okay, for you, no idea. Is that because you don't know where to start? Is it like you've got to work on all 3 of them and you just don't know which one to tackle first? Which one is like a big need for you, Alpha? Is that why you've got you said no idea? I don't know if you're thinking. No, I think I just want to wait to get to know someone before we decide on anything. Okay. All right. So you feel like you don't have a plan of who you kind of want to be with or what kind of relationship you want to have. You just kind of want to see as you go along if this relationship. Do we have a number 4? I come across as intimidating. Do I? Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Heidi. Oh, you? I was like, what did I do? Okay, you come across as you do, but you don't trust people. Says, oh, thank you. Over says you do, but you don't trust people. Okay, so what does that mean then? Of if you say you don't trust people, how does that kind of impact you? Because you said, let me just go back to it. You think I just want to wait to get to know someone, right? So you want to kind of try and build up the trust first, but you don't feel like you can even decide if you want to be with somebody if you don't trust them. You have to kind of, men say things and they act differently. True. Everybody does. It's not just men. And I say that because I work with men as well. And I understand what some of their experiences too. You know, people can all put on fronts and stuff like that. And that's why we do need to pace ourselves. That's something that's very important that I talk about. We do need to pace ourselves because then you learn about, you know, whether somebody is genuine or not. But when you know what you're looking for and you also are aware of like red flags and green flags and stuff like that, 100%, Daria. Every time we get into relationship with someone, I'm not going to lie about it. It is going to be a risk, right? No one can predict how people are going to start acting in the future. And even myself, I've been in my relationship for 4.5 years, and I know that I've changed as I've gone on as well. Not obviously in a bad way, but I'm still probably not the person that I was when I met my partner. Equally he isn't either. He's changed in a good way too, but he's not the person. Like we can all change and evolve and grow and stuff like that. And I think that's why we have to be really sure about what we want. That's why I think having values is quite a good thing. And then we watch as well how people behave. But you do have to pace yourself. You don't want to marry and live with someone. It's not digestible for a lot. That's what I'm saying. Each to their own. If that's your preference, there is probably somebody out there who would also feel the same. You know, my partner, we've got a great relationship, but we're quite independent. Like, we just get on and do our thing. We spend time together and we spend time apart. We're quite happy. But that's just who we are as people. And we just both value our independence as well as our togetherness. We're very similar creatures. It's interesting. But there's always somebody out there, and I always say there's probably more than one person out there who's aligned with you. And it's about knowing, yes, but it's about knowing exactly what you want and sticking to it and feeling confident about the fact that you will find someone. I always believe that whatever we believe to be true will be true. Like, if we think we're not going to find certain things, or we're going to keep coming across the same kind of people all the time, then that is actually what is going to happen, because our brains will just naturally look for evidence to support your belief. That's how our brain works. It wants to, keep us safe. It wants to it almost wants to kind of like give us what we want, give us what we need, and we are subconsciously saying this is what we expect, kind of, this is what we believe to be true, this is what we want, so cool, we're going to get it. That's why I say you won't often see the kind of people that you want until you start thinking that it's possible to even have them. When you're able to, and that's why having a vision of what you want is great, because the more you focus on that vision, the more you enjoy it, you sort of visualize it and feel it and be like, oh yeah, this feels good, this is something that I would love, and I'm expecting it. I don't know when, because we never know when it's going to happen. I always say anything when it comes to dating, anything can happen in a moment. It can happen in a second. Like, the minute I just went onto my online inbox, it was this platform I was on. I was actually going to come off because I was busy and getting back on with work, and I just saw this face in the midst of all these other guys, and I was like, oh, he looks nice. I wonder what he had to say for himself. Went to read his message and went to look at his profile, went to look at his pictures, and I was like, oh, got the trifecta, let me reply to him. I liked what he said. And here we are 4.5 years later. I wasn't expecting that when I went into looking at my inbox at all. I was just going to clear it. So that's why I say anything can just happen in a moment. People bump into people get introduced to people. So it's possible. But I think the thing that I would love to try and sort of impart on everybody is, I want you to be ready for when it does come. I want you to be prepared emotionally and just be like able to screen people easily, and to make sure that you understand what your patterns are, so that you don't get swept up in them again and then just end up maybe circumventing that person and end up going for something that you don't want. So yes, you should rewire your dating strategy 100%. I know one of the things that really helped me was something when I had a coach, and I was doing some work with her on my relationship, because in fact that's not how we started. I started with her looking at my habits, because I'm a terrible, no, I'm not a hoarder, I just have too much clutter. I was like, I need help with like my habits so I can get rid of my stuff and But every time I came into my session with her, we'd end up talking about, oh, how have you been getting on? How was your week? And most of the time I'd have some stories to tell about some dating scenario that had gone wrong. And eventually she said, do you want to just like work on your dating life, your relationship? I was like, yes, let's do that. Because I really needed someone to talk to about it. I needed someone to like bounce ideas off. I needed someone to share what was going on, to give me some insights and reflection. So because there are things that we can't see. We all have blind spots, right? We all think we know what we're doing, but obviously we keep getting stuck. There's something missing. So she was super helpful, just helping me to see things that I hadn't picked up. I was like, oh my gosh. I still remember the moment when I realized the belief that I was carrying, this core belief that I had that was kind of constantly running the show for me, which was, I felt like my needs weren't as important as other people's. So, this is where I then, what did I do? And it was such a wallop, but it was such an awareness to have. I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this to myself all these years. What? So we started working on reframing them, reframing that belief that I had, and also looking at my actual dating actions and my actual dating patterns, and being like, right, when you do this, when this happens, this is what you do. But instead of doing that, you need to do this instead. And I found that's such a helpful thing to do. That's what I help a lot of people with now. And this is one of the reasons that, like I was saying, all the stuff that happened in my life, this is why I do what I do today, because it absolutely changed my life. And apart from that, I've always loved love, I've loved romance, I loved helping people in general. I was already coaching, but this was just an area that I'd really seen the shift. And everything that I share is quite repeatable. So people take it on and they change from it. So yes, you can absolutely rewire the way that you're showing up. You can rewire the thoughts that you have, your actions, your patterns, all the things. So how can you learn this strategy that will be most suitable to us? Well, if you want help, so I always say to people, only if you want it, there's plenty out there for you. For one, if you're somebody who loves ongoing support, you want to just, gently go at your own pace, reflect, get some guidance while you date. I have something called a Find Your Match Club. It's like just a membership. So this helps you bit by bit every week. So for example, the first week I dropped in how to get a date in 5 days. So it's practical steps and how to land dates, and it does bring in a bit of alignment. Then there's a red flags and green flags checklist in there as well. So you have that. Then I did a training on compatibility and how to know someone's compatible. This next week, we're talking about Ask Me Anything. And then the week after, I think we're going to be talking about patterns or online dating. So each week, there's something to kind of support you and help you on your journey to finding your person. And then you get the beautiful added bonus of being added to my matchmaking pool, if you want to be matched with somebody based on your values and alignment. And there's a lovely group chat as well, where there are genuine singles in there that are just there, and then you get to come to all the mixes and stuff like that. So that's one way. If you're somebody that kind of wants a gentle sort of bit by bit support and guidance, that could help. And then if you want to do it, in fact, I'll just drop my link in here so you can just look at it for yourself if you're interested. And then if you want to fast track, and if you want, like what I had, which was really helpful, somebody to just like really talk to and just pick those blind spots, help you figure out what your patterns are. Like you get a full audit, identifying what's blocking you, helping you to understand why you keep attracting certain types of people, and then helping you come up with a plan of what to do next, whether that's like now or whether you're like, I really want to kick off my new year, knowing exactly what I'm going to do. If you're stuck in the same cycle, or you feel like I've done all the work, but it's still not happening, I don't want to guess anymore, I want to start being more intentional, then I also do one-to-ones. And I said at the top of this that I love to do one-to-ones. I've got one-to-one sessions right now called How to Attract the Right Person. And it basically just is a deep dive. It's a 60-minute call. It's a deep dive into your own dating life, like what's happening for you and whether or not, and then coming up with a plan to help you basically make that change. And it is quite powerful having these one-to-one conversations, because you just get that one-on-one time and you get to just talk about your own stuff, and we get to break everything down. So those are a couple of things. The first thing is literally just, it starts from like about £10 per month. So it's like really low ticket, and it's a nice kind of gentle, easy way for you to get that support. And if you're not sure, then I also do like a complimentary 15-minute call, which a lot of people tend to book, which is great because I also, again, still love to talk and help people. And it can just be you might just want one bit of direction, and I'm more than happy to do that in that 15-minute call. Or if it's just that I don't really know which one of these things is going to be right for me, or like, how can I get started? So like you say, you've got all three, but you think maybe I need just the one. Okay, what's my first step? And I'll be more than happy to just tell you what your first step is in that 15-minute call if you want. And if you want more help, then you can book something else. So there is help available to you if you do want it. But I do find that, when we're sort of stuck in something, we're stuck in a pattern, it does help having someone else's eyes on what you're doing. Otherwise I find you just keep getting stuck over and over again and getting stuck in the same cycle. So that's the best way. And you can also keep an eye out for future things that I'm going to do, where I do some of these masterclasses and workshops. Probably I'll do another one next month because we're coming up to the end of the month as well. So those are a couple of ways that you can get some help. If you've got any questions, drop them in here. And also I'm happy to take off. You can come off, unmute yourself and ask me as well. But I just want to go back and make sure that I haven't missed anything. What I would love to ask you though, guys, is how confident do you feel about taking that next step for yourself with the ones that you said you put down? C. Did you put C? Was it C or when you've lost, what are the numbers? 1, 2, or 3? Oh yeah, because you said, hi, do we have a number 4? You come across as intimidating. ID, please just book a 50-minute call with me if you want to just like ask a little bit more about that as well. Or please unmute and I'll be happy to help you now. So if you just want to know kind of what that first next step is, do you feel confident that you can take that first next step? Or do you need to feel like you need a little bit of guidance? Right, let me just check the questions, but please do drop questions, or feel free to put your hand up if you want to unmute, and I can do that. Right, let me see. I think somebody wrote something way up. I'm just scrolling up just to make sure I haven't missed something. My question is, what if someone you like has options? Janika said, what if someone you like has options? Janika, do you want to say a little bit more about that? Is that like you're in a rotation kind of thing, or, you know, chatting to other people and stuff like that? Is that your question? Please feel free to unmute, or if you want to type a little bit more down there, I will answer. And Heidi said, yeah, you said you had an issue with this because you are intentional, but you get mirrored, then ghosted. So when you say you get mirrored and ghosted, do you feel, are you saying that people kind of start acting like you or saying the same things as you? Tell me a little bit more about that, Heidi. I always need a bit more detail. And you're a narcissist magnet. You know, at first I was like, narc, because I watch all these cop shows. I was like, what are they narking on? You mean a narcissist magnet? Yes. I often find that sometimes we can attract a certain type, and it can be something subconscious that's going on as well. Or we're just not screening. I think for me, it's not lack of options. I attract people, but the one I do end up connecting with is great for a month or so until the mask falls off. The issue is the familiarity isn't always the key, because as you mentioned before, they might be avoidant, or have other agendas and need validation from others instead of being vulnerable. So picking yourself actually hurts at first, and then if you love them, it's even worse. Yes, I totally agree. And again, that is why we do have to pace ourselves, because I always say that people can put up a front for a short while, you know, and I think there are sometimes clues to how people are. And I think sometimes we overlook them, we miss them, even though they're probably there. And that's why I always think seeing people in their different environments with other people in their life is good, because you know whether or not this is how they usually show up, you know, the way that they are with you. Are they being like quite legit? I also think that, you know, just watching how they treat other people, how consistent they are with things. I also think getting into a bit of conflict is always good. I'm not saying start the conflict, but I think when you do have conflict, how they resolve it or don't resolve it also says quite a lot. Right, let me have a look, because I see that there's a lot more questions down here. So you might have answered some things for me. Let me see. Sorry, my thing is being a bit slow. It's blankety blank. Let's see. Oh, someone said they need to leave. Oh, bye to Jean. Sorry if I missed you when you said you had to go. You need to go soon. Okay, Heidi. But like I said, yeah, just book that call if you want to. Yeah, they show me they are aligned because they find you attractive. I'm not being big-headed at all. No, not at all. Not at all. We all get it. You know, I've been told that too. and that's fine. But I think sometimes that's, you know, guys can be quite visual as well. They can be quite visual. And that's why when I talk to the guys as well, when I'm coaching them, and I'm always saying, like, don't be just going up to women and be going on all the time about how they look. Like, women want to feel like there's more to them than that, you know. Even if you think it, that's great. Tell them a bit later, after you've settled into something with them, because we do want to hear it, but we don't want it to just be that that's what we're there for, right? So, but and then another thing, when I talk about when you're sort of online as well, in particular, don't share too much about what you want up front, because then people can jump into your inbox and be like, oh yeah, I'm into that, I like that, just enough for the right person to feel like, oh, there's potentially alignment. But then I always say ask questions, get curious. I've got something called a power in introduction guide as well, so that it's sorry, my thing's gone off brightness, you know, so then you can ask certain questions to try and find things out about them without interviewing them, but also without telling them too much about what you're about and who you're about. What you're about, or, you know, or who you're into, who you're after. Because a lot of people like say, oh, what is it you're after? What exactly are you looking for? And then you tell them what you're looking for. Then they start telling you, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I'm into that. Oh, I'm like that. That's how people could do that, because they want to snag you. They want to get you in the snag. You know what I'm saying? Because they find you attractive. So, you know, that's why you just got to be a little bit mindful about what you answer, how much you give away so early on. You have to pace yourself. Then Janika said, I liked someone. He was liking my IG stories and wishing happy birthday, but nothing happened. But I've noticed he's been acting different and being hot and cold. Mate, I was just like, if someone's being hot and cold with you, just give them space. Leave them to do their thing. Because I always say, and this is a big lesson that I learned, is you invest as much as other people invest. If somebody's being funny with you, whatever's going on for them is their issue. Unless you know that you've outrightly done or said something to them, the rest of it actually isn't on you. So let them be. Let them come back to you when they are confident that they know what they want, and what they want is you and getting to know you. That is basically what I would say. You know, I always feel like people, if they really want something, they will go after it. If somebody's really into you and they really want you, they will come after you, you know. And hopefully, if they are nervous or they're not sure about how you feel, they might have the confidence to ask you about it. And if you know that maybe you're not putting that out there and sharing that, then do that. And then you see how they react. You always do a little bit and then you step back and wait and see how somebody responds to that, because that tells you a lot. Definitely don't go after them a bit. Are people afraid of feelings as well, or is this a myth? Why would you say that? Oh, like, why would you say that people are afraid of feelings? Um, do you mean, I'm trying to think of what you might mean. You might have to elaborate a little bit on that for me. Chasing is a no. Great, Janika, absolutely a no. I don't know if people, I think people can be, yeah. People, I think everybody kind of has a fear of being hurt, right? Some people fear vulnerability. They fear like showing too much of themselves and then getting rejected, right? That is natural for us to I think feel. So yes, that can be a thing, but that doesn't mean it's a that they don't get there eventually. I think it just depends. Yeah, it is the vulnerability. People are. They're like, if I show you all of myself, if I show you, you know, my flaws and my things that I feel shame about, all this kind of stuff. If I show you all that, will you still like me? Will you still want to be with me? That's scary. If I show you that I'm sensitive, if I show you that I've got feelings, will that be, hot too much for me? Will you ditch me? Will you not want to be involved with me? So I think, especially guys, I find that does happen quite a bit. Learning our core values is the most important step in dating. I think that's the mistake I make, not learning the other person entirely, especially when their cultures are so distant from each other. Yeah, Daria. I think knowing where you guys are aligned on your values is definitely the most important step. And just taking your time in really getting to know somebody and what they're about. Like, I know we kind of want to get into relationships sort of like quite quickly. We are so keen to lock something down, to be exclusive, to be chosen, to feel like we found somebody. But think about this in the sense of, you want to be with the right person, right? And you want to be with the right person for a long time, for life. So God willing, wherever we are in our stages of life, like, we have another 40, 30, 50 years, hopefully, with the right person. So there's no harm in taking a bit of time to make sure that they are right for you, because it really has such a huge effect on your life, the kind of relationship that you're in. It affects your feelings, your emotions, your day-to-day, your mood. If you have kids, having the right person in your life, it obviously really matters, because you want them to fit into the family unit. If you want to have kids, having the right partner to have them with really makes a huge difference as well. So there's nothing wrong with like taking your time to get to know somebody and just slowly building and making sure that they are genuine, making sure that they are right for you, etc. That's kind of really important. I can have massive feelings but still do not want to rush things, but nowadays it seems that everything has to be all or nothing. Or if I express my feelings, the counterpart thinks I want marriage, house, and kids. I do not think or act like this, but get totally misunderstood. Does that make sense? Yes. Then it's probably the people that you're talking to that are the issue, because then it means that they aren't the kind of people who are on the same page as you. They're not aligned with you somehow. And even if you're not obviously expressing like that, then these guys, there's something that maybe that they are after, or they're looking for, that isn't what you're looking for, or they're just panicking and freaking out, like, you want more. And I think there are different ways to kind of manage the situation. It's either just being able to say, listen, I'm upfront, I'm not in a rush here, I'm not looking somewhere down the line, I'd like it, but my interest is making sure that we are aligned, and that's all I'm interested in. Because if it's not aligned, if we're not compatible, it doesn't matter whether I want marriage, house, and kids and stuff like that. I'm not going to want it with you. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to want it with you if we're not aligned, because I think that sometimes people have this mindset that you just want these things, so you don't care who you're with. But I think it's being very clear, like, I'm more interested in whether or not we're actually compatible. The rest of the stuff will come later, if that's what we well, obviously that's what I want. So first of all, I want to be with somebody who does want that eventually, if we are right for each other. And if you don't want any of those things at all, then yeah, you want a real connection, and that definitely needs time. Yeah, 100%. We don't need to rush things, and we can definitely express to people as well that we're not into that. We don't need to be rushing things either. Has anybody else got any questions for me? Let me just check and make sure that I didn't, because I scrolled back down quickly when I saw that people had potentially answered my question. Just to knowledge about. Let me just see. Yeah, I think Heidi had to leave us. I don't think this is gender specific. Someone said that I could say the same about women. Yes. Men say things. Yes, that's what I was saying as well. Holger, it's true. I do find that as well, that guys have said that to me too. Holger, is there anything you want to share? I don't want you to feel that you have to, but is there any question you want to ask? Don't know, married with somebody. Okay, I think I have responded to everything before. So if you haven't got any more questions, guys, and like I said, feel free, if you've got one-off things that you just want to ask or you want a bit of direction, please feel free to book a complimentary call. People get a lot out of these 50-minute calls. They're very laser focused. Someone just messaged me the other day after one of those, and she's met someone from that call. I was able just to help her pinpoint a couple of things that she was able to go and let go of, and then equally somebody who was on a longer call, and we went like dived deeper into things. I was able to help them figure out like all of their patterns, the things that they needed to work on, and then the next steps in their plans. And that gave them so much more confidence as well, just to go out there and date without having to rush into things, and actually start meeting people who were more aligned as well. So again, just having someone to chat to is helpful. Broke up recently. Is there a time bracket whether I should wait or be open to dating? I don't think there is a timeline around it. I think it's more about whether you're ready internally for a new person, and you're ready for an emotional connection as well. Because sometimes we might want to go out and meet somebody else just for the sake of having the company, for the sake of having something physical, but we're not ready to get our hearts involved. And then if somebody else out there that you're meeting is ready to get their hearts involved, then, and they like you, but you're not ready for them, that can mess things up. Equally, you like somebody, you're not ready for them because you haven't dealt with maybe anything from your breakup. Maybe you haven't forgiven somebody. You need to do what I always call a bit of a reset first. But that's if I can't get involved. Like I was in the past, someone who was very much like, I'm not actually ready to get into an emotional relationship. I'm happy to like just have a FWB, but I'm still smarting over those feelings that I had for that person. So when I'm ready to get, because I always feel like I said, it's a risk when you get into a relationship, right? You almost have to be ready to potentially get your heart broken. I know that sounds very negative, but it's more about that you're in an emotional place that you can handle situations, right? But if you're emotionally fragile, that it would just mess with you and break you, then that's not the right time to start getting into a relationship. But if you feel like, I've been there, Janika, trust me, I could write a book. Have I written a book? I have written a book, a novel, but that's by the by. But if you're ready for that potential to happen, not even just the whole heartbreak, but even just the clashes, the conflict, but the work that you need to put in to maybe make that relationship work, then you're probably ready again. If you're not still holding on to the past, if you're not still constantly thinking about your ex or comparing people to your ex, then that's how, that's when you kind of know that you're ready to sort of put yourself out there and start dating again. And, one of the things I always say, Janika, as well, that with the heartbreak, I think what happened and what helped me was realizing that I got over it. Right. So I always thought, okay, if I can get into this relationship, even if something goes wrong, it's okay because I've come through all the others. So it means that I'll be all right. So it's kind of having that quiet confidence in yourself because, relationships are so unpredictable. They are. And I think because we bring so much of stuff into it ourselves as well, and people bring their stuff. So, even when you find somebody who's right in a line, sometimes there's still quite a bit to navigate. You've got to navigate your preferences, your love languages, your emotional needs and stuff like that, how to manage conflict, But when you figure these things out, not only do you grow as well as a person, but you can grow together, you get stronger in your relationship as well. The emotional connection deepens, you have more emotional intimacy, and then you can just, zoom and know how to deal with things as you go on. So you do have to be ready for all of that. Okay. Anyone got any more questions that they want to ask me? Anything at all? How fast should the relationship get physical? I think that's going to be dependent. So there's two answers to this. One, it's up to you how quickly you feel like it's important to know what your physical connection is like. But on the other hand, I also feel like when you do rush into it, you can get caught up in all the hormones that come with it. And you can then mistake, all of those nice feelings for love and for compatibility. If the chemistry is on point, then you might just be like, oh, this is going good. Like, I can't stop being around this person. But really, it's just your loins that are just like, oh, I like that feeling of being on fire. I want it again. And then you just kind of forget about all the other stuff. Now, I'm not saying that happens with everybody, because some people do develop really good relationships even after the physical. But then I think that's also if the other stuff is aligned, and also the willingness and, the desire to still have that emotional connection. So things are a little bit different. But I generally think if you can keep it out of the equation for a while, and focus on building that emotional connection, I think that's better. And I think it also enhances the physical as well, because you've now got more of your feelings involved with that person too. And that actually makes things a little better, even more explosive, right? And I think you can always tell as well if the chemistry is even there, even just from smooching, even just from how you are. So you don't always need to know, but I get it. I've been there. I used to feel like, I just need to know whether this is going to work in that department or not. Otherwise, forget it. That was my younger days, But that was important to me then. That was an important value for me at the time. So you just decide how important is it for you that you need to know that this is going to work out in that department, or do you want to kind of spend a bit more time trying to develop the emotional intimacy first? So it's you've got to get that sort of delicate balance as well. And then also be prepared that if we do get physical too fast, this might fizzle out quickly, or that person might not then be invested in getting to know me. And you're going to have to decide, can I handle that if that happens? And say to myself, oh, well, at least I had a good time. Do you know what I mean? At least it was a good ride. But I think that's where you've got to be prepared. You've got to know yourself. You've got to know what it is that you're looking for, what you want. But then as well, if that happens and that person isn't interested in progressing, then it just means they're not your person either. So I don't know if that's helpful. I hope that's helpful. Let me know. Any more questions? Just sitting here for a moment, just in case it popped up before I was like, right, okay, great. You're very welcome. So, how can I know that someone is ready for a new relationship? I've met a lot who recently broke up and still not over it. You're very welcome, Maria. How can you know if somebody's ready? I think if they are not over their relationship, then I don't think they're ready. I think that's just a real clear sign. If they're still talking about their ex, if they're still showing signs of like feelings, whether even if they're not still in love, but they're angry about it, they're vexed about it, they keep bringing that person up, they keep referring to stuff, then it's not the right time. It's not the right time for them to be in a relationship. And I think that they need to do a bit of work and do healing. I mean, what's interesting though, it's funny because sometimes you can be with a certain person who's patient enough to let you deal with that. But I think it all comes down to whether somebody's got a bit of a growth mindset and who likes to work through things, and they're going to work through it. They know they want to get over it. They they take on some points and are on board and they're like, yeah, I need to put this in the past. I know I need to do that. I need to let go and forgive. There are different types of people in terms of how they handle something. But generally, I definitely wouldn't get your heart too involved and too attached if they are still holding on to the past, because it's just going to hurt you. And you need to make sure that they have moved on completely. And you can still, if you want, be a friend, but if you're looking for a relationship, I would just say just keep it cool. I hope that's helpful, Olva. Yes, and you understand them. Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. Okay. No immediate questions. Many thanks for your time to break searching for a new partner down into 3 main components. You're very welcome, Hope. I'm glad that you found that helpful. You're welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for your feedback, guys. You're welcome, Janika. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and for listening. And just know that obviously when it comes to attracting the right person, it's not necessarily about trying harder. You have to be more impressive. You have to do anything to fix yourself. It's really just about knowing yourself, knowing what you need. That's a good question, Janika. I will let you know. It might not be in until actually, I think I'm going to do one in the beginning of January. Actually, I always do one at the beginning of January, so look out for that one. And also, if you would be on the email list, I'll probably email you about it. And I will probably send you my link to my free Telegram group as well, so feel free to come and join that too. And I always put my announcements and stuff in there. I do try to put some content in there every now and then. I don't always get to it because I am juggling a lot. Like I said, I'm doing my matching, so I get to enjoy matching people. So I spend time matching people and whatnot, and helping out, answering a lot of questions. So I don't always get to do that, but be in there anyway, because that's when you learn about stuff, and that's when I do put some other interesting bits like the things that I talk about here. But as I was saying, that you do need to date in a way that honors like where you are at in your life. And obviously, if things haven't worked out, it doesn't mean that it's not going to. It just means that you still need to get some clarity. You still need to just maybe build up a bit of confidence in your decision making and learning to trust yourself and making sure that that you're just being aligned. So it's just really all about transitioning. So obviously, whether you decide to get any additional support from me or not, no pops. But as long as I hope that you take something away from tonight and that you sit with it and that you try to figure out, how to move forward. But I certainly hope that you are leaving here feeling a little bit clearer, a little bit lighter, a little bit more hopeful when you first showed up. I really hope you are feeling like that. And thanks for being here. Thanks for being open and for your questions and being open to doing this differently as well. So thank you, guys, and hopefully I will see you on another one soon, or see you in the group, or please do feel free to book that free 15-minute call if you want to as well. I'd love to chat to you and help you in any way I can. Even if you don't want to jump into the other things, that's not a problem. I live for this stuff. I do get a lot of joy out of it. So you're doing me a favour as well. Because I love answering people's questions. So you're very welcome, Offer. All right, guys, lots to think about. Okay, great. You're welcome, Ling. You're very welcome. I'm glad. All right, guys. Thank you for your time as well. And I will hopefully see you and speak to you soon. Ciao. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.